Hello, everyone. Ti Dave here. I hope everyone's doing good and having the best New Year you can as a Ti. I've kind of been, kind of falling back from everybody, seeing who's who, and just watching this ridiculous stuff that goes on in the community, and just trying to stay out of it. The jealousy, the envy, the backstabbing and stuff, and I want no part of it. Matter of fact, if you come to me talking about somebody and you ain't got proof, even if you do got proof, I'm still gonna ask the person. But if you just come to me to talk about somebody, then I know you're gonna talk about me too. So I'm just gonna back all the way off from you. I'm just letting you know it's not the year for you to come talk to me about anything, because you're just going to show me your true colors. Because if you'll gossip about somebody else, you'll gossip about me. And that's real talk. So that's really, I've been falling way back, keeping my grass cut to see the snakes, so to speak. Anyway, I got Jeremy here today, and he's a TI, unfortunately, and I've heard a little bit of his stories, and man, it's just another horrible story. But he stayed strong, and there's definitely spirituality on his side. God's definitely on the Most High is definitely on his side, from what I've heard already. Well, Jeremy, I thank you for coming out and
It's a
being brave enough to come on here and let people know what's going on. I hope, man, I hope that they stop attacking you so hard. Jeremy is a vet. So anyway, Jeremy, I guess we'll start off. He said that he's pretty sure he's been targeted since birth. Could you tell me like the first things that went on that was abnormal in your life? Because I know since you're being targeted at birth, you
yes,
probably
I
had some
sure
stuff.
can, Dave. I sure can. And Dave, I'm happy to be here. It's an honor to be here. You're a miracle worker in the targeted individual community. I appreciate all your content, like I've already told you. So I'm happy to be here doing this interview. And yeah, Dave, I'll say like even like I was telling you before about how I was basically handed over to my enemies as a baby on a forced integration type of human sacrifice as a baby that I believe was found outside, which I know sounds crazy, but I'll tell you like the gang stalking for me, it started in the household of the narcissistic abusive family of like the MOM and the DAD and the siblings, right? And I had a brother and a sister, a legal brother and a sister, and a legal
Now,
mom
are
and
you the
dad.
oldest?
Yeah, I was the oldest.
I
But
am
they,
too.
yeah. And they would basically like when I get home from school and they'd get home from school, what they would do is my brother and sister, which aren't my brother and sister to me. They're not my real family. I know that now. But they would get together and basically gang stalk me, like provoke me, trying to provoke me to retaliate. And so like they would like frantically try to get me to retaliate, and I rarely did. I mean, rarely. Like I remember one time, like the most I would do is I held my brother down one time and pinned him down, and I gave him like a knuckle sandwich right here in the sternum, like leave me alone, you know what I mean, until he was, you know. And so I rarely retaliated, but they would try to get me to retaliate so that they could like call the DAD on the phone and be like, "Oh, Jeremy hit us" or whatever, and then he'd come home and want to beat my ass, you know what I mean? And he already wanted to beat my ass for no reason anyways. But he would, so there was physical abuse. And then as far as the DAD was concerned, some of the, he used to tell me when I was a kid, right? He said, "You're a no good, worthless fucking piece of shit, and that's all you're ever gonna be." And it's like, wow, that's good to know. I have so much potential. And like I was playing soccer, Dave. They had me playing soccer, and after about like 2 or 3 years of playing soccer, I became really good, right? And like really good and skillful with the ball, and people couldn't take the ball away from me. And right when I started to become good and to enjoy playing soccer, my dad one day said, and I call my dad the devil, right? The devil said, they said that he said to me one day, and I was playing for this team called the Jetstream, right? It's like a chemtrail or some shit. And excuse my French, I'm gonna clean up the language. But he said, they said you can't play soccer anymore. And I was like, why? And I was like 8 years old or something, like 9 years old. He said, I don't know, but a judge in a courtroom said so. And I was like, really? That's weird. I was like, that doesn't make sense. And then, like the next day or two, he said, oh, well, they said you can only play soccer if I'm your coach. That's what the DAD told me. And I'm like, well, okay. So then he became the coach of that team, and then that team got like new players on it. And then for like the 1 year, because they knew I was getting to the point of being really good, for like 1 year, we beat everybody really bad. We scored like 52 goals against our competition, and nobody scored even a goal against us. And so they kind of let me shine a little bit that first year. But what they were doing was like ritualizing my soccer career and turning it into a human sacrifice. That's why, because what business do they have interfering with the soccer career of a
What makes you
9 year old?
mention,
Go
I
ahead.
hate to interrupt you. What makes you
No.
mention human sacrifice so that people can
Well,
understand what you're
because it's
talking
like
about?
what the hell are they doing getting involved in the soccer career of a 9 year old child? Because I was damn good. I mean, I got to the point where I was so skillful with the ball, I could just dribble through a bunch of defenders and score a goal, right? So I became like really good. And then that's what I feel like because Dave, it's like I know that
Harnessing your energy.
well, yeah, not only that, but I'm not allowed to have success in this world. That's one of the things I learned. It's like
Right.
when I was in the military and I talked about what they did to me in there, right? Like that's because I'm not allowed to be successful. I'm not allowed to have my own success. But yeah, I have felt for years like they've been doing human sacrifices of me. And I can't really think of much of another explanation for that whole shenanigan of making it like a judge in a courtroom saying I can't play, and then they say he can only play if it's this way. Like it doesn't make sense, right? And then after that, after I left that team, I went and played for a competitive team where you have to try out for, and I could tell they were trying to like I think they were trying to make me disappear into somebody else damn near or something. But I know it sounds weird, and I'm not going to get into it, but it felt like a human sacrifice, and I barely remember being there, right? Like they wouldn't like a lot of my memories of my past is like flashback memories of just barely being able to remember being there. Well, I played for that team called the Owasso Storm. And one night we played against this team called the Claremore Lightning, and they were coached by a guy named Hani Robbie. And he was a notorious coach, a notorious youth soccer coach. Anyways, he like illegally recruited me onto his team one day, and he called the house where my mom and dad and I and their children stayed or whatever. And he asked them if I wanted to come play center midfield for his team, and I was like, yes, I do. I said yes right away because I wasn't happy where I was at. Something was definitely off there. And so I went and played for Hani Robbie, and I feel like he kind of tamed down whatever they were doing to me and made it where I could actually like at least be okay, kind of. And once Hani left, I went and played for another team in Tulsa. And I remember at every soccer game, I was about 15 years old. They had stunted my growth and stunted my develop like I think I think I'm such a late bloomer that it's hilarious. Like I was out there playing soccer when I was 15 and I was playing against giants. I was about like I must have been I was tiny and I looked like a child compared to these guys. You know what I mean? They looked like twice my age, twice my size. But I remember my dad would be running up and down the sidelines, just screaming at me the whole game, like making sure I couldn't even play. Like he'd be like, Jeremy, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, what the hell? And he's not even the coach, So it was totally weird. You know what I mean? Like, what the? And the coaches let him do that. He would just run up and down. He would fall. And now he would just scream at me the whole game, Dave. So that's just kind of that weird stuff. And I find myself talking about soccer sometimes when I talk about my being a targeted individual because sometimes I end up back there, but typically I try not to go there. But yeah, that's a couple of examples of just some weird stuff, man. Like that whole soccer thing. And then here's why I quit. I was playing in Tulsa for the competitive team. I played for the Tulsa United. And after the games, dude, my dad would like beat me in the car in the face and shit. And he'd like grab my face and one day he was like grabbing my face, grabbing me by the chin and like pulling my face towards him. And he was like so mad and he was like spitting in my face and he was like turned red like a devil and he smelled like a demon, dude. And he's fucking pushing my head against the side window. And I said, fuck this shit. I said, I quit soccer. I said, I'll never play again. We were on the way home from a game. I said, that's it. I said, that's the last time I ever play soccer. I said, I quit. It's over. And he said, yeah, that's because you're a quitter. And I was like, well, I quit. And he's like, yeah, that's
Now,
because
were
you're
your
a quitter.
parents successful?
Huh?
Were your parents successful?
He was a mechanic at American Airlines, so he was pretty successful with that. He worked out there and
Because
retired.
I hear some, I've done research on, well, I won't get into that, but some families feel, some people, there's rumors that certain groups of people sacrifice their firstborn.
Yeah, well, that's what they did, and they got to have it pretty easy because I wasn't even born of them. You know what I mean? Like I didn't even come from their union. But yeah, they were doing a sacrifice of me, kind of like that. But it's kind of weird because they had told me something about how their firstborn died, and then I don't know, man, but I know, like I remember one time I was kind of a kid and I was living at the devil and his wife's house, my mom and dad, and I was there and I said, Mom. I was like, Mom. And the devil was like, She's not your mom, she's my wife. And I was like, Oh, okay. Good to know. Like fucking that's weird. Like, I mean, if I came from her womb, surely he wouldn't tell me that she's not my mom, you know? But so I don't know. That's
And didn't you get pushed off a cliff at 9 years old?
Yeah, I think I was thrown. It's kind of a mystery of exactly like who threw me, but I feel like they hired an assassin when I was 9 because I remember looking back and seeing that the his my brother and sister. See, it's hard for me to even talk about family because what am I going to call these people now? They're not my real family. I don't, you know. So, anyways, I look back and I seen like my brother and sister like smiling and like laughing because like and I was about to get launched off a cliff and it was like right before I got thrown off that cliff. I looked back and then I was gone. You know what I mean? I was gone after that, and I remember not flying through the air. I didn't know. I don't know what it was like. Somebody chlorophilled me and threw me off a cliff. I don't know exactly what happened. They hit me with a death ray and launched me. I really don't know how they threw me off the cliff, but I knew that they knew that I was about to go, and they were down there like waiting for me to splatter. And I think they wanted to like have my like steal my soul when I splattered. I don't know, man. It's scary, traumatizing. It's like flashback type of shit of
But
like
you survived.
yeah, I survived, and like they took me to the hospital. I went unconscious. I remember they took me to the hospital, and basically what they said was I had like a very minor concussion, and they said that was all that was wrong with me. And I mean, it was a unsurvivable fall, damn near. It wasn't necessarily like a huge high tall cliff, probably about 12 feet, but I wasn't near the edge, and I feel like they just like launched me off with a trajectory, and I landed head first on solid rock. So
I noticed that when most target individuals, a lot of targets have stories that they shouldn't even be here, you know,
I know, and that's how it is.
which should encourage them in the spirit and build their faith, you know.
Yeah, I do agree, but this program gets so brutal sometimes that it's like it does make us feel like we don't want to exist here anymore. I know it does that to me, and I hate when I get there. But and it's like they come after my relationship with the Most High. Like I remember back in like 2024 when I was staying out in Tulsa at this hotel, and I'd just be laying in bed and I'd be just trying to pray a little bit, just trying to pray to the Father just a little bit, like a mini prayer. And they would come and like block and attack that shit. And it was like, man, I lost my freedom of religion in the United States, I can tell, you know, and it's like they won't let me pray ever. Like they attack my faith so bad and they attack my prayers and all that stuff. So man, it's hard. So pray for me, David, when you pray for the TIs out there, and I pray for you too. You know, I know that you and Holly do really good work, and I really appreciate the work you do in the community. So I pray for you guys, and I know you guys pray for the community too. So I started doing that as well. And anyone praying for TIs out there, pray for me if you wish, because it's like Dave talks about having someone stand in the gap. You know, that's a good way to put it. And so yeah,
I'm trying to
it's
get my list out because I'm put your name on there.
I
Any
appreciate I
specific
appreciate.
thing?
Just in general, maybe a little bit of protection from the most vicious parts of it, which is like I've talked to you about when you know what it is. It's like all these weapons are going on, and then the gang stalkers start coming through, and it's like they're riding that shit, amplifying it, and then the gang stalkers try to be like the very worst part of it. Like I got people like this technology is horribly abusive already, but then I got these like gang stalkers that have been stalking me and terrorizing me my whole life, and then I moved away from. I'm now far away from them, so they're even more brazen now sometimes, you know. And it's
What
like,
do they do? What's some stuff they do?
well, just like what they tried to get me to over the years, because we talk about what you like traumatization and how they try to like sensitize and traumatize us to certain things. What these people tried to do was basically get it where if they get me to like think of them for one split second because they've been doing this shit to me for so long, like that's all she wrote for an ultimate war provocation. So like if there's a weapon coming in, or like the DAD, he likes to attack me. I got all these gang stalkers that do this shit, but they're like Man, it's like when that shit comes through and tries to hit me, right? They want me to associate that shit with them. You know what I mean? Like they're dominating over me and like, smashing me down and picking on me and bullying me, and they provoke me to war. I mean, I go, I'm
So
coming
V
for.
so through V2K.
Um, Well, we talk about like the word injection. So it's like when I'm trying to defend myself in spiritual warfare manner by like, and I have to speak it clearly, right? Like we don't get to be a hack like these people are or whatever, but it's like, yeah, the V2K I get is mostly synthetic telepathy. It's mostly silent. And then when I hear the voices, it's mostly like I'm hearing their commentary that seems like it's kind of far away, like they're commentating on some shit or they'll say
On
something
everything
about
you
me.
do.
Huh?
They comment on everything you do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, and then, but I get a lot of like the site, like synthetic telepathy of the V2K. And then also like where if I'm trying to formulate, like if I think like me, like they'll throw in an N, they'll be like men. And I think what they're doing is like that's the Freemasons attacking me, and they like to throw in an N, and I'll be like, the Freemasons aren't men. They already use their M and their A and their E and their N to be a Freemason. That's why they're not mean either. They're all fake ass nice wolves in sheep's clothes. Sorry, but I'm not. I that's how I've described it in the past. But yeah, it's like they'll basically get in there like whenever I'm having a thought or anything like that, they get in there and they shoot it in there, and it's like they'll add a letter, change a word, do this stuff to like, and then totally just like jam me up so bad. And you know what, this technology, a lot of it, to describe it, it's like when I was in the military, what happens on like certain aviation warfare levels out there and different like naval warfare is like there's a lot of like EMF jamming and everything's running radar, everything's running all this different stuff. And what they're doing and what they're doing to us is kind of like what they do to me is they like to jam me up, like EMF jam me, like spiritually stonewall me and like all this crazy shit. But they kind of, I feel like I'm like a submarine being hunted down sometimes, and they just got all like I'm in weaponized environments. I've heard them admit that to me. Like that was one of the things that they said to me on V2K back in like 2021, I think. They were mentioning how I'm in weaponized environments. So that's how I describe it. It's like wherever I go, they make my environment so weaponized against me, and it's like and then they get to like behave at me as atrociously as they do, which is like these people, I refer to them as like they're like the worst of them. They do the worst. It's the worst of it from the worst of them through the worst technologies ever created. And the technology allows them to really be more abusive than if they were like right there with us, because they probably wouldn't dare. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Oh,
So
go ahead.
didn't you so you were in the Navy, right?
Yes, yes.
Didn't you say you'd done something like very good and this dude took the credit for it?
Well, yeah, and they targeted me when I was in the military too, Dave. I will say that they tried to capture me as a POW in 2006 when I was on the U.S. I'll tell you what, I won't name names. In 2006, they tried to crash a helicopter at sea, kill a crew of three, and pin it on me. And I stopped them. I showed up. I was on nights, and I did all the inspections, and I was off work, and they expected they were going to crash a helicopter in the ocean, Dave, and come and kidnap me out of my rack and take me as a prisoner of war and put me underneath the hangar floor. And I shit you not. And I showed up there. I showed up there that morning when I was like off work already, and they were up there by like the tool logs where we, inspect the tools and sign for them. They were going through all the tool logs because they were trying to make sure they could totally blame it all on me because I signed for tools. I inspected the helicopter, did the plane captain inspection. I was a plane captain and a CDI and an avionics technician, an enlisted aviation warfare specialist. And I showed up and they were all standing around there, and I said, what the F is going on here? Because I could tell something was seriously wrong. And they said, we have a lost tool. I said, a lost tool, a missing tool, huh? You got to be kidding me. And I said, which tool is it? And then I was like, you got to be kidding me. And so basically, I immediately intuitively knew what was going on. And I believe there was angels there like helping me that day. But I was like, here's what happened. So I ended up exposing the whole fucking shit going on right there, excuse my French. And I ended up like mowing down the chain of command that day. I said, I said, that screwdriver is on that helicopter. You're going to call that bird back right the F now. Because here's what they were doing. He took a screwdriver up there and lodged it. Man, this is where it gets into some crazy shit that I don't know how much I should say. I'll try to just summarize this
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. Don't.
Let me just summarize. But ultimately, I called out the whole situation, and I got to the senior chief who was on the radio with the helicopter, and I had already ran through all the officers by then and told them, I didn't like strike anyone. I just told them what was going on, and I was taking over that chain of command, and I didn't tell them that, but it was clear that that's what was happening. And I got to the senior chief, who was our crew chief or whatever, this bum. I think he wasn't. Anyways, I said, you're going to call that bird back right now or die, basically, is what I told him. And so that bird got called back immediately when I said that. And the ship went into landing operations. And they here's what they said to me. They said, the peephole is yours. They said, Leak, the peephole's yours. So that means I have access to the peephole to see the bird come back, and I'm the one that gets to look out that window at that time, right? And so I'm out there looking and seeing my helicopter come back. I'm the plane captain. It's my screwdriver. I signed for tools, and they were trying to, man. So I had the
Wow.
peephole and I was watching, and the helicopter came back and landed on the flight deck. And right when the helicopter touched down on the flight deck, there was a vibration transfer. I mean, Dave, right when the helicopter touched down, I seen the screwdriver fall off of the helicopter off the starboard side and land on the flight deck. And by the way, this screwdriver is like a Klein screwdriver, like this long. I mean, you could forge a long sword out of the damn thing. You know what I mean? So,
Right. Well, thank you for your service too, man.
yeah, thank you, and you're welcome.
Uh, so like, what's a day like for you? Like, well, how did you find out what targeting was and all that?
Well, I've been going through it for years, and early on there wasn't nearly as much information or as there is today. But I heard about the remote neural monitoring, and because I like everybody else at the time when before we knew was wondering what the hell's going on, and I used to feel like it was a lot of like demons attacking me or something when I was a kid, when I lived with my mom and dad. I think they were, man, I don't know. They were always like suppressing me in these weird ass ways and like always making sure I was depressed. And then like my mom would always try to tell me like there's something wrong with me and I need to go get on medications and stuff. And I'm like, oh well, you know what I mean? I'm like, and anytime I was okay, they tell me I'm not. And anytime I wasn't, they tell me I was or something. But can you repeat the question? Because like it's
Oh,
somebody's.
just like what? How did you find out what targeting was and all that? Like,
Well, it was clear to me that I was being targeted like by them, and it was clear to me like it was just clear to me like I ran this vapor store back in 2015. See, like in 2012, I had a spiritual awakening. At that point, I was pretty much over everything. I was like, you know what? I think I'm just going to walk away. I think it's done. I think that's it. I don't think I'm going to participate in society. I think I'm just going to walk the earth. You know what I mean? That's how I felt. And anyways, the devil's wife was like, "Oh, well, we should open this business. Oh, it's all for you." Blah, blah, blah. So we ended up opening this vapor store out in Rogers County.
well, I can
And
edit that part out.
okay, but they, they would basically what they started doing to me was like before I would go to work out there, the whole county was doing the whole county, the whole place was gang. Like the only reason we opened that place was so that they could gang stalk me and target me. Like I shit you not, and. Like that's because my mom and dad were heavily involved in why I'm targeted and all this stuff. They
And
sold me
they
down.
helped you get the vape store?
Well, it was their vape store ultimately, and it was kind of like they said it was mine. But I kind of went there and tried to help her build a business. So initially, I wasn't even taking a paycheck because I kind of had another seasonal job that I was kind of subsiding on at the time. And unfortunately, all these memories and all this stuff is so infiltrated by my enemies. I don't even like talking about like some of these past things because it was like you know what I mean. It's just great that I'm not there anymore and that place doesn't exist.
Right.
But the whole place was like that whole thing was set to like, I mean, they had me isolated forever. And as far as like how I learned about targeting, that's a strange question to try to answer. It's like because it's just been years of learning about it. You know what I mean? I did.
I'm
I've heard.
saying, how did you figure out, hey, there's a program, they're targeting people like the
Well,
pro, like
they were
not
like they were trying to like lace my sky with chemtrails. I felt directed energy weapons. I was getting tortured. And I remember initially when I first started getting V2K, and I can't remember, it was a long time ago. And it was basically like I feel like I overcame a certain level to where my mind clicked over and I got it, right? And I was like, okay, maybe I can and then it switched over to this like telepathic attacks, and I noticed it was like people that like claimed to be my friends, or whatever, like there. So I started hearing their voices a little bit in the V2K and shit like this, and I was like, man, that's screwed up. So that like now I have to, so, and that was a long time ago. Another thing, Dave, like I went to the lake with some buddies one time, back when I was like, I had just got braces off my teeth. I used to have like gap teeth. They gave me microdontia, I think, like, cause they've been doing this shit to me since I was a kid, right? They've been like trying to take me apart. I used to feel like they stopped me from going through puberty, and I didn't go through puberty till I was like 20 something or 30 maybe, because looking back at like pictures of me playing soccer when I was 15, looked like I was playing against grown ass men. I was like half their height and I looked like a child. And so just all this weird stuff, but I had a little bit of like microdontia. Anyways, I got braces and blah blah blah. And I went to the lake with these, and I think they were mad because my teeth got fixed or some shit, and I was gonna be able to maybe smile. But these three guys I went to the lake with are supposed to be my friends, and I knew them for quite a while. They fucking hired two fucking hitmen to come like and assassinate me. And I was just walking by with a smile on my face. We were all drinking some beer out there and swimming. And this big Indian dude, he threw this crazy elbow at me, like just as I was walking by, like boom, and then dropped me, and then started smashing me when I was on the ground, right? And I okay, so like, and all I remember that like initially, like I remember seeing just a split second of that elbow before it was too late, right? And I woke up on the ground, and I was like on my back. I'll demonstrate. I was like on my back like this, and I opened my eyes, and I seen my three buddies just sitting on the cooler, still drinking beer. Right? I sat up, and I got up, and one of them came over to say something. And I said, "Shut the fuck up." I said, "Help me find my teeth." And I pointed down. I said, "Help me find my teeth." And he was like, "Let me see." And I showed him my mouth, and he said, "They're still there." And so like this dude like knocked my teeth so far out of whack, it felt like they weren't even there anymore. And so I just reached in my mouth and I put my teeth back in place. And I said, "Give me a beer." And they gave me a beer. And I said, "We're going to find those guys right now."
So
And they
your
were like, "Are
jaw
you
was broken,
serious?"
basically.
No, my jaw was not broken.
Oh, okay.
He bashed, he killed this front tooth, which has a crown on it now. He knocked these two like behind the other two. So when I went like this, it felt like I was missing some teeth up front. And but they were still there. They just got knocked way over. But I said, "We're going to find those dudes right now." So, and I know, and I was just tiny little me. What am I going to do? And I was like, and these guys, they're supposed to be my friends, and they want to act like they're some big tough guys or whatever. They, I was like, "Oh yeah, you guys are great." And I said, "We're going to go find these dudes." And they're like, "Are you serious?" I was like, "Yep." And we got in the car. And I'm glad I went and did this investigation, Dave. And those two dudes that assassinated me, they had the road damn near blocked off, and they were like parked in the middle of the road, right? And I was like, "What the?" And so I said, "There they are." And I got out and I went up to him and I said, "What the hell did you just try to assassinate me for?" I was like,
Hmm.
we were all like getting along and drinking beer, and I'm walking by and you like smashed me with that elbow. And I said, "What happened to your hand?" Because I looked at his hand. It was this big Indian dude, and I could see his bones and shit. And he said, "After I elbowed you down, I punched you in the mouth like as hard as I could, like 3 times." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I was like, "Well, I really don't appreciate it very much, but y'all have a nice day." And I walked away because what was I going to do? I mean, I'm like 110 pounds of, whatever. But so,
And your
anyways, yeah.
friends didn't try to help or nothing, huh?
No, they didn't. And it was weird that those two dudes had the road blocked off. And I thought what they tried to do was maybe they hoped I might die. And then I was like 2020 hindsight. I was like, you know what they were going to do? Because we had a giant cooler of beer. I was like, I bet you they were going to cut me up with a hacksaw and feed me to the fish and then go fishing. That's what I thought. And I know that sounds crazy, but I was like, man, the weird trauma of stuff like that. And then you start looking at like, man, what the hell were they
Well, when
doing?
you go through trauma all your life and go through all them traumatic events, so that's how you read the situation. That's what your mind knows. That's how you read that. Hey, they were going to do this to me.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
trauma
It's like
runs deep, and
as you
I can
go through
relate
the
to you
right,
as far as abuse as a child. I'm not going to go into it,
right.
but I think that's weird because I had late puberty too, and I don't know if that has something to do with abuse or not, but I
Well,
just think that's kind
I
of
think
weird.
I was born in '82. When were you born?
80.
Okay. Oh, really? You're older than me. No shit. Hey, you looking good for your age, Dave.
Thank you.
Yep. Um,
But
no,
trauma
I
makes us
think they
think
might have been.
crazy
I think.
stuff.
Well, I think like with what they were doing to me, I think that I was immediate like human sacrifice as a baby because like I really I think they found me outside and I know it sounds crazy, but that's like my like what I've learned. I feel like as they've done this to me and fed me only lies my whole life, like what I'm so appreciative of the Most High for is I feel like throughout the processes he's let me know about myself. He's told me where I really came from. He's told me things about myself that are that you know what I'm saying that like that he told me and it's not what they told me, it's what he told me. Like he's the one that told me, my color ultimately, you know what I mean? Like he's the one that told me Comanche. He's the one that told me like that I'm half Japanese, half Comanche kind of. And he's the one that's basically like guided me into truth through, as I've like persevered throughout all of this abuse and all of this targeting. It's like the gift and the reward for me has been like learning the truth, learning who I am. You know what I mean? And you know what I'm saying? Does that make
Yeah, I know
sense? Like
exactly. Because see, that's what the Matrix does, and that's why I don't.
the Matrix
I
cannot
that's
tell us
why
who
I
we
backed
are,
up a
right?
lot off of I don't care if my channel gets views because you know what, the Most High is going to send who needs to see my channel. I'm not
Yeah,
out there trying to promote my channel,
yeah,
and I'm staying out of the limelight because I don't like the limelight no more because I want to focus on myself, what I
yeah,
got going on here, and my relationship with the Most High. Because
yeah,
the Matrix keeps you so busy
yeah.
you end up dying not even knowing who you were or not even having a relationship with the Most High. That's the most important thing to do on this earth.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
see?
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Well, I think Dave, like as far as you like talking about late puberty, I think they might have kind of stunted our growth and stuff like this a little bit. And so that's kind of a blessing for us now because now we're younger than we would have been, I guess.
Right.
But yeah, there's a lot to say about it, but that's kind of something I've thought about too.
So
It's like, go ahead,
let
go
me
ahead.
ask you this with a sacrifice. You keep saying sacrifice. Are you talking about like narcissistic people and some people do it just because of they know how to hijack energy. So when you're a child, you're innocent. So a child's energy is more valuable to a narcissistic or somebody knows how to manipulate energy and steal
Right.
it and use it to try to materialize stuff in the material world. I know that sounds crazy to some people
Well,
who may not
yeah.
understand it, but um, so
Well, Dave, in 2018, I told you about how I think it was 2018, I said that they were doing this crazy witchcraft on me, and I started putting them under what they got me under and stuff like that. And I started to just defeat them and
I'm
reverse
just
what they
saying,
were
is that
doing.
what you're talking about? Energy
Well,
harvesting?
no, well, in doing that, in reversing, well, yeah, kind of. I mean, that has a lot to do with it, Dave. It has a lot to do with it. I mean, if they're harvesting all of our living energy, then it's gonna have a something of a stunting on how we were perhaps supposed to develop. And I don't like talking about this human sacrifice stuff, but I know that's kind of like what they do to me. But I know, for instance, like one of the things that Freemasons are into is doing human sacrifices on people. And Dave, I could get into this big time about how everybody in a way is being sacrificed in the United States because it's a whole world of lies, and they got everybody living under lies, right? And it's either like you have the lies or you have life, you know what I mean? And they have chosen the lies. It's like they chose plausible deniability over water even. But
Well, I
yeah, it's
think
like
it's
you
not
can't.
just in the United States. I think it's going on worldwide.
I do too, but I think the United States of America is the worst of it. You know what I mean? And I hate to
Right.
say that. It's a I'm man, I'm so upset about what's been going on here. You know, having served in the military and coming back here and getting treated like this, and my whole life, and it's even worse when I get back. It's very infuriating. And when I think of the Navy, sometimes I'm like, I never should have went in and I never should have got out. But they were trying to capture me as a POW, and I had volunteered to go on that last deployment I was on. They were when I told you that story about the helicopter and the screwdriver. After that deployment, and I survived that deployment, one of the pilots said to me, he said, "What you going to do now, Leak? Ride off into the sunset?" And I said, "I hope so, sir." But I mean, I got off that Navy ship and I went straight on terminal leave for about 60 days. So they could have said all kinds of stuff like, I know I did a great job. I know nobody had anything negative to say about me, but I know I never showed up for the debriefing or anything like that. I kind of wish I would have. But yeah, we had the highest mission successful completion readiness rate ever done out there. We were like 98.9 mission successful completion, which is like astounding. Like we were always ready to fly, always perfect. And we our helicopters were used for like anti-sub warfare, and basically we could see everything. We'd go out in front of the aircraft carrier and extend the radar. We knew everything that was at the bottom of the ocean, everything anywhere in the ocean, everything on the surface of the ocean, and everything in the sky. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, my grandpa was a Navy man, executive officer. He was second to command on a battleship in the Battle of Leyte. I don't know if you know about the Battle of Leyte. He was on one
wow,
of them battleships.
wow. Have you ever seen what is it, the USS Alabama out that way? Because I think you've been out there. I've been arrested in Alabama too, by the way. Excuse my French, but have you seen the battleship that's out there?
Uh-uh.
Okay,
I
like
know
I
what you're
think.
talking about though.
Yeah, if you're ever out there by Mobile, you should check it out. I think you might be able to do tours, but they have a battleship. I think it's the USS Alabama. It's huge. Those battleships are awesome. They're massive. I was on I sailed on small boys, which are guided missile cruisers, guided missile destroyers, and fast frigates. And I was on the USS Gettysburg and the USS Bulkley. And the Gettysburg's a guided missile cruiser. The Bulkley's a guided missile destroyer. And yeah, I preferred the Gettysburg because it was just a little bit nicer of a ship. But anyways, I could tell sea stories. For too long, and so we won't get into that either. We'll stay on track here.
So what's a day like for you? Like including if you were to go to the store and stuff, could you kind of tell me?
Right. Well,
Well, no, I
usually
don't want you mapping out your whole day for them, so
no,
never
no,
mind.
I
That's a
won't. I
bad
won't. I
question.
won't. I won't. But I will say, like, mostly, like some of the part that stinks dealing with this stuff is like upon waking up, I'm immediately getting assaulted. Basically, getting like, they're coming at me like a blitzkrieg to like. I used to like when they come through to try to like ruin my whole day before I get out of bed. You know what I mean? Like ruin my
Hmm.
whole life before I get out of bed. And I'm like, oh my God. And then anything I do, I'm getting just tortured. Come to brush my teeth and they want to act like they're teaching me how to do it's crazy. They're just assaulting me and they got hey, what's the mind to mind thing? You talk about that heterodyning. Is that the mind to mind technology, that heterodyning stuff?
EEG heterodyning is where well some I don't think they need headsets anymore. Some people says that somebody that's got a headset, that's the way it was
I've heard
described
that.
in Robert Duncan's book, but
Okay.
it's
Okay.
basically they got a here, let me read this to you
All
because
right.
this is very important. So this will help you understand. I posted this earlier. It's a good description. Hold on. Let's see. Let me see.
And Dave, I'm going to try to answer your question too, pretty quickly without getting into too much detail. But it's a lot of like torturing me no matter what I do. And what, lately over the last couple of years, it's to the point where if I want to reach down and pick something up, they want to smash me and act like they're telling me to pick it up. So then I won't do it. So what happens is they create war zones in my life because they'll act like they're telling me to do like my move. Like if I'm going to try to clean my kitchen, right? They'll start assaulting me and like act like they're telling me because they know I'm not mind controllable. I'm so far from mind controllable, it's not even funny. And I know they do have an impact on me. They greatly impact the way I operate every day. They make me a less happy person. They make me less social.
So if you're
Sometimes
getting ready to clean the floor, they'll be like, punk, clean that floor. And then
no,
so
well,
you
yeah, well, yeah, but it's like yeah, I mean, kind of, but like stuff like that without saying, they don't say exactly that or anything, and it's almost like they don't even say anything. It's like
intrusive.
they'll try to like make their presence known at me, like they'll try to get me associating what's attacking me with them, like some of these gang stalkers do, like some of the worst ones I've had, because I like my mom and dad, like they sold me out to multiple families, like when I was growing up and stuff like this, like they did, like I could get into the history of it and looking back on it, you know how we are with our hindsight of our 2020 PTSD. But for the sake of staying on track,
Can I
um,
read this about the EEG real
yeah,
quick? This
yes.
is really good info. It says once the target's been selected, they will be studied in order to find out what traits their personality is made of. IQ, personal history, family ties, education level, beliefs, backgrounds, purchasing power, their entire network of friends, everything that's possible to search in social networks using other ways such as data from official institutions. That is, with this in hand, a neural signature is created relatively quickly and remotely. This signature is sent to MK Tech computers where the algorithms responsible for triangulating between the target and the terrestrial and space antennas based on this signature are initiated. They maintain frequent contact, a back and forth communication with the target's mind, constantly comparing the parameters of the signature on the computers with the electrical signature of the brain. From then on, the open link and triangulation between these devices will never stop intercommunicating. The process of analysis and interpretation of emotional complexity begins. The personality structure is measured and the cognitive process is observed along with the repercussion of this aspect in the individual's interaction with their environment to slowly still their soul piece by piece until the subject becomes unrecognizable. Now the individual is officially linked to the scheme. Their mind is connected to all the systems that make up MK Tech, making them easily locatable anywhere in the world. Satellites responsible for locking in their targets, mind hacking, detecting their position via GPS, torturing them, reach throughout the entire national territory. You can't hide or run away. This step takes place, of course, without the person's knowledge. Only when the signal begins to interact with the mind, a slightly discomfort can be noticed, a kind of ringing in the ears. Then that characteristic noise similar to a cicada or cricket or whistle or the hiss or of a pressure cooker sets the exact moment when the person becomes a target. Like I feel like I'm at high altitudes mostly all the time. My ears
Yeah,
popping, all
yeah,
kinds of crazy stuff.
yep.
Yeah.
I get that. I get that. And I
So that's
do
kind
the
of an
thing like you do when you're
explanation.
on an airplane and kind of plug your nose and
Yep.
blow out your ears. Yeah.
Did
Okay.
that help
Okay.
you?
Yeah, no, it did. I guess what I'm looking at, what I'm talking about is like their mind to like the gang stalkers that somehow have access to connect to this network of
Yeah,
torture
psychic
technology.
assassins is what they're called.
Okay. So they have like access to people's like remote neural monitoring.
Yeah.
They eat right, and so people like that have access to my remote neural monitoring, and then they like my mind actually like my man the first 30 years, Dave, I was like, man, I didn't have no self-esteem, kind of like I kind of hated myself because of what they did to me, and then over time. I really developed a strong mind, and I really turned my mind into my ally instead of my enemy. And so I realized that, like, my mind, I realized I was healed of the mind. I felt like I had a sound mind. My mind went from negative to positive. Like I kind of took over my own mind. And so now it's like they covet in a way like that, like you talked about their jealousy and stuff. See, they got this like covetous jealousy of us, and then it's like, see, they do this to us and then we overcome and we become stronger, and then it's like, and then they want to like they covet that, and it's like, man, do you know what I'm saying? Because I feel like with them trying to deny that I ever existed, and they're trying to steal my spiritual identity. I hear on some of your videos that like Brian too talks about like how they can, like recreating a person, of their recreating their brain and their spirituality and all this crazy stuff, right? With their fallacy, right? They want to like recreate us and stuff like this. But there's a lot of like, see, like there's a lot of like a stolen valor aspect to it also, I feel like. And like there's because honestly, like there's valor in being a survivor of this. And I only use that term because I was in the military and I watched, Don Shipley videos, for instance, and I hate to name drop on here, but he goes around and he like, he calls up like fake Navy SEALs on the phone and calls them out. You know what I mean? People that are pretending to be something that they're not, And so I get behind that. I know like I had my valor stolen even when I was in the military. I feel like they've done it because like, I mean, there's valor in I took over the chain of command and took over the chain of command for like 5 minutes and then was like, okay, my job is done here, and went to bed. There's valor in the fact that I'm like the most successful AT out there that's ever went out there with the highest mission. And I'm not bragging, but I'm just saying it's like they painted the guy that they gave my valor to. They gave him like 8 Navy achievement medals.
The one
They
that was asking you questions on
well,
how
the
to do
one
it.
here's what I suspect about that guy. He didn't even go to boot camp. They brought him in from like some other government agency and put a uniform on him and sat him down next to me and had me like, because he walked in on me while I was doing the most difficult wire repair, the thing that I was kind of famous for in there because I was like the only one that could do it right. It's called Triax. It's like it's like video for like forward looking infrared. So like that stuff would always like, it was old helicopter. So, but that stuff would kind of get basically, and people couldn't fix it. Right. And it's like, because you're stripping it to the 64th of an inch. There's 2 layers of outer insulation, 2 layers of braided shielding, a tiny little conductor, a little semiconductor, but it's a really like delicate, like you got to be perfect. And it's like you're stripping like layers to like 3/64 of an inch, right? So a lot of people couldn't do it. Everybody would go out there and try. I mean, they had me when I was an E4 go out, or an E3 even, go out there and watch like an E7 who claimed to be like an A. He was an AT for whatever 12 years or whatever. And they had me go watch him do it. He couldn't do it. They had me go watch the guy that got all the credit for my triax repairs or whatever they painted him up with. He couldn't do it. I was like, nope, not even close. So when we were at the squadron, they like if there was a triax gone wrong, they'd always come looking for me. And when we were at sea, I had to fix a bunch of that stuff. And I mean, anyways, yeah, that guy got painted up with like 8 Navy achievement medals and all this stuff. I didn't even get one. I'm like, man, that's okay, whatever. And it doesn't bother me much because I know how I served. Like I know what it was for me. I wasn't out there trying to get anything. I was in there to do a job, and so that's all I did. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Yep. So
Now, I like what you said too about how, when they pick a target, the handlers or whoever's doing the targeting, um, the pieces of crap they like to project it and try to make you look like what they are and
yeah,
make them. Yeah, I like that.
yeah,
I like how you explained it earlier. It was
yeah,
good.
yeah. There's a lot of scapegoating done through this technology. You know what I
Right.
mean? Yeah. Like a lot of these people, like what they've tried to do in the past, and they've even this even reflected on some of the paperwork and police reports from the arrests when they wrongfully incarcerated me on crazy crimes I didn't commit. Like they had an assassin try to come kill me or whatever, and I ended up just hanging out with the guy and drinking some beer and turning it into a bartering session, and then he left. He failed to kill me, right? But then he called the cops and said I tried to kill him. He said I tried to slash him up and shit. So I was outside one day. I went to go take like a smoke break, and believe me, I was in an age of madness, right? And I'll talk to you about this kind of stuff a little bit, ages of madness versus ages of sanity. But anyways, I walked outside, and the cops pull up, and I was talking to this homeless woman, and we were having a smoke, and she dipped out. I was like, "What's wrong?" She said, "Oh, the cops." I said, "We didn't do anything wrong." And then the cops showed up looking for me. They're like, are you?" And I was like, "Yeah, what the hell did I?" I said, "I didn't do anything." They were like, "Oh, you're under arrest for attempted murder shit." And I was like, "What?" You know what I mean? Like, you got to be kidding me. They didn't say attempted murder at first, but they said it was like some assault, like hacker slasher. They try to get me on some hacker slasher shit, like I'm Jason Voorhees or something. So I'm like, okay. And that case got dismissed, right? I went to court, and luckily there was an advocate in there. And I don't know, this was a bit of a miracle. I was at court on that first day, and they dismissed the case because there was no injured party to show up, or nobody showed up. That, you know what I'm saying? And I didn't do anything, and they know that. So they dismissed the charges, luckily. But man, I would have never got out of Oklahoma with that one because that came at me towards the end. And then Dave, I got some crazy stories about ways they've come after me, man. They've like, oh man, they've
Oh, I
had
believe you.
yeah, no, they've had street gangs come after me and like stalk me and shit around the hotel I was staying at and be always like looking for me and be like, they called me Comanche because they were like, "What's your name?" And I didn't want to tell them my name. I said, "I'm Comanche," Comanche's my name. And so, I mean, it was crazy shit. Like, and like what it is too for me, like what I'm always trying to do is stay like in the space of sanity where I like to live a pretty simple, disciplined lifestyle, Dave. Like on a day-to-day basis, I talk about wake up getting tortured on like let's say through a certain period of me staying out in Tulsa. I wake up, I'm getting tortured real bad through every step of the way, and I'm like, oh shit, and so then it's like I might get up. There was a time where I'd get up and smoke a cigar. I was looking for a reason to get out of bed. I was like, oh, I bought some cigars. I was like, I'll get up and smoke a cigar and drink some coffee. That'll get me out of bed. So there was a time where I got through the morning like that. But basically, it's like I'm getting hit real hard all the time. The worst time for me is when the gang stalkers come through the broadcast because these are people that, man, they man.
They use certain voices,
No,
people's
it's not.
voices.
It's not even that. It's so hard to explain. It's like somebody I worked for out in Oklahoma, right? Like I can give you an example. Man, Dave, it's just like people that have no business being in my life. They try to put these people, like whoever's not welcome in my life, right? Like anyone that I was like, oh, I'm not letting them in my life. They try to like take those people and put them in a dominant position over me, right? Like they've gone back through my life and found like all these different like people or whatever, and like turn them into like gang stalkers against me. And like all that stuff. This is where I wish I could be more clear. This is part of it where it's like maddening to talk about. But yeah, so
Does it get worse? Like for me, like they make, especially when I'm in the bathroom showering or using the bathroom, they
yeah.
make yeah.
Oh man, yeah, like all that stuff. Like I got on. I was, yeah, Dave, tortured in the shower, tortured like no matter what I do, they turn it into like trying to turn it into humiliation campaigns, smear campaigns, and then they like provoke provoke me to war. And the thing about it is I developed such a war response over the years with these people, and I do kung fu too, you know. So I'm like, well, you know, whatever, you know. And I've been doing spiritual warfare for a long time, so I'm like, whatever. And I got a lot of faith in myself and the Most High, and I'm like, whatever. And I'm like Comanche, so I'm like, well, whatever. You ever seen that movie Hell or High Water? He says, do you know what Comanche means? Enemies forever with everyone. I'm like, well, I guess so. Everybody seems to be coming after me all the time, you know. So
Yeah. Have you
yeah,
ever
so
seen 1888, 1893?
no, no.
Or I think it's 1888, 1888, 1893. Well, he says that Comanche dude, he takes a bite out of that heart. He says, I'm Comanche, and that's what I think of when I hear Comanche.
Numana. That means I am Comanche. I was I was telling you about getting shot by the taser guns not long ago and how they put 9 holes in me, you know. And Dave, I was that day. This is an example of when I'm kind of maybe failing to be on my program would be like, okay, Dave, I'm fasting every day. I'm eating one good meal a day. I'm working out every day, and then I'm doing some subliminal healing on myself and reprogramming my own mind in my own kind of way every day, turning myself even to my own super soldier, turning my, you know, because I know like back in the day, I was like, all right, I'm going to try to heal my PTSD. So I was like listening to like subliminal, like frequency kind of stuff like that you can find on YouTube for that, right?
Uh-huh.
And I noticed like I was getting attacked. I felt like I was getting attacked by the VA and by my parents. Like they're not going to let me heal my trauma. Oh, they don't want to let me heal my trauma. I was like, oh, okay. So then I started listening to Super Saiyan subliminals and shit. I was like, fine, I'll go Super Saiyan against you all then. Oh yeah. So like it's crazy like that for me. Like I have there's this, I'm a fighter, you know, like that, right? So I find myself like in firefights against them, and that's what I try to avoid at the same time. I'm always trying to keep the peace. But when they figured out how to provoke me, and it takes like some of the worst gang stalkers in my life to come through, and they come through and attach to me in a way, and it's like it's so insulting, it's assaultative, it's like it's the word, you know. And they know, like they know how to piss me off, right? They know what pisses me off, right? And that's what they try to do, a steady diet of what pisses me off, and like what I find to be the most intolerable, insufferable, insulting, war-provoking kind of shit. And that's what they're always doing to me. You know what I mean? Like a lot of times. And right now, you know, things right now is like I've got weapons aimed right here, which is no big deal. Like it is a big deal. But I'm saying compared to the heinous levels that I've been under, like right now things are relatively calm because I'm talking to you, and you know how it is. Like Brian Two's talked to us about this. Like it's harder for them to like get in our minds and manipulate what we're doing when we're having some random act of like speech with somebody that we're talking to, you know what I mean? Type of stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you able to work?
I'm on disability from the VA, and I'm on Social Security disability actually.
Right.
And it's like physically I'm capable, but Dave, when I go get a job, I'm not allowed to succeed, and they straight up turn it into a human sacrifice like every time.
And you
Like
start thinking, yeah, and you
I
start
mean,
thinking people, you
well,
don't
like
play
what I
well with
told
others, basically.
do what now?
You don't play well with others because of what
Well,
your mind tries to convince you
no,
of and what the
okay.
B2K.
There's that aspect. It's like every time I get a job, it's like it'll make it where it's, oh, I guess I can't get a job. I mean, the last job I had, it was the second time I'd worked there. I do a great job there. I showed up and I was doing a great job. And one of the bosses, there's two, you know, brothers that run this place. I used to work out in Oklahoma, and I'm not even going to say what it is. But anyways, he asked me if I'd go stock the cold section real quick. It's not, you know, and I was like, yeah, no problem. And there was only 7 minutes left on my shift. This was in like 2021, I think. And this was the last time I had a job. And so I went back and I was just stocking it up, right? And I wanted to finish the job. So there was only 7 minutes left. I figured the job was going to take me about 15 minutes. So whatever. I stayed a little late. I wasn't asking for nothing. I just tried to finish the job. Well, one of the employees walked in and seen me like, you know, one-legged standing on a pony keg, like getting some like ninja stalking done. And, you know, I mean, I was just doing whatever I had to do to get the job done. These other people go in that cold section and they'll like put on a coat like they're going camping. I just go in there like I am and try to get it done real quick, right? So anyways, she saw me and then blah, blah, blah. Then they're like, oh, we wanted, I don't know what it is, man. They start like scapegoating me, sacrificing me. They want to like steal my personality. They want to like sacrifice me to the other people there to like, oh man, like it's crazy. So anyways, the other boss, the next day I go to work and I did a great job. Nothing bad happened. I stocked the beer cooler. I got off at 7. The place closed at 10. I show up the next day And the boss or whatever, he's like, "Oh, come in my office." He's all pissed at me. I'm like, "How shit?" So I go in his office and I'm like, "All I've done here is show up and do a great job for you guys. And that's it." You know what I mean? And so I go in his office and he starts talking shit about that. He starts blaming me because from 7 to 10, nobody went and stocked that place again. And it was open for 3 hours, right? So he starts blaming me because I did a good job. Now he wants to reverse that. That's what they do to me. Like, oh, I did a good job, so they say I didn't. Or I do the job well, so they say I can't do it, or something like this. So, and then I have so much trauma, like from the military. I'm on disability for PTSD, and yeah, Dave, they gave me some other crazy diagnosis, I reckon too, because I did about a month in the VA hospital, and I was talking about. I just tell them what's up. I mean, I just tell them what I experienced, right? So that means I'm crazy. And here's what they do, Dave, with their psychiatry fraud. See, they got like okay, say like schizoaffective disorder, right? So what they do now, like they diagnose us with that, like to discredit us, invalidate us, whatever. Also, though, with the technology, they become our symptoms. You know
Yep.
what I mean?
Exactly. Perfect explanation.
Yep. Thank you.
My last job was I was working at a trailer plant. And we, you know what a sidewall is, don't you?
Aside, well,
A sidewall.
no, not
So you
necessarily.
got two walls on a trailer. You know, one
Okay.
long wall, one long. So I built six sidewalls a day. So I'm
Okay.
there, and this is like unexpected. Me being even getting hired there, whatever. So it takes them about a month and a half. I walk in, everybody's friendly and stuff. You get to know people. You're building six sidewalls. You got to work as a team, building windows, framing, all that. So I walk in one day and you could tell everybody's atmosphere. They had been told, you know how when people just change, everybody was just shying away from me, just
Right.
looking at each other while I'm talking, like, like, look at this, like they've been told something about me. So then
Right.
I knew something was wrong there. So I made it through the day. I'm waiting so I had to wait on my buddy to get done with his job. I'm waiting at the car, and they had this is this big parking lot, and while I'm waiting on him, they had like three cars just circling the car I'm sitting in waiting on my ride like sharks. And of
Right.
course, when he walks out the door, they stop and pull off on the main road. I never went back to that job again. It freaked me out.
Yeah.
Or Casey's Pizza. I'm making pizza, doing a good job. Like that's what I don't know about other target individuals, but I think we're go getters at every job we are. I know I was.
Yeah, we are, man. I know I
So
am, and like,
then I'm making pizza, and then there's two employees there, and at the same time, I'll get a whisper in my head, David, tonight's your last night. They're coming to get you, and they're going to do it at this job, and they're talking about you right now. Well, I look over, and the two people are talking, and they look at me, just stuff like that. All that just runs me, So then I can either stay, and then I won't keep my mouth shut. I'm gonna say, "Hey, what's up? You plotting on me?"
right.
And then I end up
Right.
they end up making me ruin the job because I hate just sitting there and just keeping my mouth shut if I think
Yeah.
something's going on. And
Yeah.
it's sad because
Yeah.
I know I'm a good worker.
Yep, yep. And it's like they squeeze us out of the workforce. And that's to finish that story. Like I did the stocking job. I stayed a little late. It wasn't a big deal. I went to work the next day, and now I'm in deep shit. Now I'm getting called in the office. Now he's just saying, if you can't do the job type of shit, because they know that I'm doing a damn good job. And he's talking to me, he's saying this shit, and I was wearing his work uniform, the vest there, and I just started unbuttoning that shit right away, and I was about to just drop it on the ground. And then he started love bombing me immediately, right? Because the second time I worked there, you know what I mean? He started love bombing. He's like, "Oh, personally, I love you to death." I'm like, "Yeah, I bet you love me to death." So I ended up not quitting that day, and I went back out there and suffered through it. Now, by then, what they had done, because this was my second time working at that job, so like I had to do inspections to stock stuff and stuff like this. So I'm really good inspector, man. When I was in the military, like attention to detail, the Navy, but I inspected the whole helicopter all the time. I had to inspect all the tools. So I don't mess around with inspections. You know what I mean? Like I pay attention and I make sure that I'm not missing anything to a very high degree, right? So I'm a high performer at work. I mean, I'm like really, and there's just jealousy, and then there's like covetous jealousy and stuff like this. But they would so like ultimately when they start gaslighting me with that shit, they start degrading my performance. And then I noticed at the last job I had, I was at home. I wasn't even at work. It was my day off. But they are gang stalkers out there where I worked. And they're business owners and they have equipment or whatever technology. aimed at me. And when it comes to human sacrifice, for instance, I'm at home off work and they want to torture me and drag my energy to where I work when I'm not there. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So it's like that kind of equates a little bit to like a human sacrifice. Oh, now those same people, they still gang stalk me today, and they're bad gang stalkers. Like they have that technology aimed at me, and um, so basically though, like he gaslit me, then he love bombed me, and I stayed on the job, and I noticed my performance got degraded. And here's what they do, because it was like, okay, stock the shelves. It was like, okay, I stocked the shelves. No, don't stock the shelves, pull the shelves. Okay, I pulled the shelves. No, don't pull the shelves, stock the shelves. Right, gaslighting me, so no matter what I do,
Yeah.
I'm wrong. And so I was at home one day and I was staying with, who I call the devil and his wife, or whatever. And it was early morning. I woke up and I went for a ride in my car. I'm getting tortured. I'm hurting real bad. I'm traumatized. That's what they do. I used to get to the point where I'd wake up wherever I was and they'd be torturing me so bad. I'd like brush my teeth real quick, wash my face, throw some water in my hair, brush my hair, and get the out of there. You know what I mean? Just get out of there as fast as I could and just go drive around and just go. You know what I mean? So, anyways, I was kind of up in the morning. And I noticed they were torturing the crap out of me, man. I was like, oh yeah. So now they started a human sacrifice on me full fledged, right? I could tell, like everything just got brutal then. So I was like, so I ended up calling the VA that day, and I called the Veterans Crisis Line. I was like, man, because they were starting to make me, man, because everything I had just been through, like I overcame a lot, man. And there was like, man. So when I showed up there, man, my favorite job I ever had, Dave, was I called myself the carcass scraper. I was the carcass scraper of Rogers County, Oklahoma. And this is my favorite job I ever had. It didn't pay me any money. I didn't have any money. I had to fund my own patrol. I was on about $100 a week that I took in royalties from that vapor store that was still running that I designed, right? So I said, no, I'm taking $100 in royalties a week. So I'd go in there once a week and take $100, right? Now it's for real. And I would live on that for the week. I'd eat peanuts. I'd fund my own patrol. I'd zip up and down Route 66 and I'd scrape all the carcasses off the road. And there was also some other things going on. There was a bunch of gang stalkers that invaded that area. And one of the things they love doing to me that they've been doing for years is this thing I call occipital torture. And it's a directed energy weapon beam that they shoot right here at my occipital nerve. And what it does, it's like insta drain the battery type stuff. It's like a vicious polarity. It's like it gets right in your occipital nerve. So I have like, they've done this to the right side of my head for years now. So like my right side occipital nerve is like 3 times bigger than the other side. You know what I mean? It's like enlarged or something. But they do that to me. And then, sorry, I'm getting a little off track here. But yeah, so
No.
I called the VA hospital and I was like, I told them, I was like, I'm kind of feeling suicidal. It was bad, man. I was like, I was really upset. They were hurting me bad, and I was, after everything I just been through, and now it's like, oh, this shit. And so I went to the VA hospital. I went and checked myself in. I was kind of feeling like shit, man, suicidal, I guess, or whatever. And I just told them I was in rough shape and I was just reaching out for help. Anyways, I went inpatient and I told them everything, and I got a diagnosis. And I told him I have PTSD, and that's what I know I have. I know I'm not crazy. I know I don't have schizo anything. But anyway, I know I do have PTSD, and I know, like, when I look at what the military did to me and tried to do to me when I was in there, like, it kind of is like I can't go work anywhere anymore because I already know what they're going to try to do. It's like I'm a human sacrifice that's not allowed to have success, that's a targeted individual that they're always just trying to take advantage of in every way possible. So, but yeah, I'm on disability and I don't work. And I'm not saying that I couldn't because I'm very physically capable. But if they're gonna run this shit and they want to be if they're my symptoms, huh? I guess I'm disabled and crazy. I mean, they're the shit that they do to me is my symptoms. I can't imagine what my diagnosis is looking like. You know what I mean? So they run that whole schizoaffective. They call us all, the schizo diagnosis and all
Right.
this stuff. Do you hear voices that other people don't hear? Are you seeing things that other people don't see? And I'll tell them, I'll be face to face with them, and I'll be like, um, I'm pretty sure no one else can see you right now but me, and you're only, kind of shit like that. But yeah, so I went to the VA hospital. I got a diagnosis, anyways, whatever. I wasn't trying to necessarily get, I was just trying to get help. I told them I had PTSD. I also had a claim in with the VA at the time because people, honestly, Dave, like I didn't want to get on disability ever, but they always want, it's crazy, man. Like I'm just gonna save that all for another conversation because there's just every one of these conversations could just go in down 1,000 different
Right.
ways. So I'm going to stay on track. But anyways, I ended up getting on disability with the VA, like kind of after that stay. I put in a claim and I wrote my own claim out to the VA. I was like, this is what they did. This is where I was, and what the am I supposed to do now? Is kind of what I said, right? So then and I was surprised. I got 100%. I got 100% disability rating basically for PTSD and whatever diagnosis they gave me, which I think happened to be, and I don't even like to say it, you know what I mean? Like, because I know what it really is. Then a while later, I went and got on Social Security, like several years. I just got on Social Security recently. Um, and treat that like if y'all want to get on Social Security because of what they're doing to you. I mean, it's like, no, and I don't take advantage of nothing, but it's like I started to feel like, well, if they're gonna do this shit to me, you know what I mean? It's like, so I ended up going and putting in my claim with them, and then I went and had the interview and I got approved for that. So I'm fortunate, right, in that manner, because I make enough money to keep a roof over my head, and that's what I try to do, man. I just try to stay off the streets, keep a roof over my head, pay my little bills I got, and try to be okay. Um,
And a lot of us TIs have been so traumatized, if we were say even if you go to McDonald's and you're working at a grill and you're surrounded by people, oh, it's gonna set. So some people do that. I know it would me set me off traumatically. Like, who do I
yeah.
trust? What are they up to? That's too many people for me to watch.
Yeah, if I walk in somewhere like that and there's a big line, I pretty much will just walk out right away. Like,
I'm just saying, how
man.
are you supposed to work when you've been through all that traumatic
Well,
stuff, around the
exactly.
crowds?
Well, exactly. And another thing with me is, Dave, they want to say that I'm a worthless piece of shit all the time, right? That's what they always want to. They want to say I'm a worthless piece of shit and that I don't do nothing and I can't do nothing. So every time I get on my programming, and I taught myself kung fu, and I've taken kung fu at a Kwoon too, but when I get on my programming, doing my workouts, fasting and eating my one meal a day, like when I'm trying to really be on my own programming, and I call it like I'm trying to build resilience and prepare for war. And they know that. Like when I'm doing my stuff to get stronger, I'm building resilience to prepare for war because I already know it's coming. And they really want to get me off of my programming. Like they don't want me doing my push-ups, which is frustrating. It's ridiculous. They want me to drink myself to death. Obviously, it's like they want to get me back where I'm like drinking all the time, because like this last cycle of me drinking over the last couple months, and I recently just quit, and I told you I was confessing my sins to you, Dave, a little bit, and I was hurting about it, but I told you I had a couple beers last night because I wasn't trying to do that. I'm trying to be sober, but like with the assaults that they do, it's like, oh my gosh. And I even asked the Heavenly Father yesterday, Dave. I was like, should I drink? And I got the answer no. And I'll run a pendulum sometimes to communicate with him if I feel like he's not talking to me. Heavenly Father, show me no. Am I okay? Show me yes. All right, I'm okay. Cool. But
Right.
so like I was kind of in a an age of madness. Let's say I go through periods of an age of madness, and then the ages of sanity where I'm on my own programming. Now they always try to get me back into the ages of madness, and I could talk a lot about like the super. I've heard a little bit of the super soldier stuff you've all talked about. They've been so, but basically like they want to get me off. And I'll give you an example. When I was in Tulsa, I was staying in a pretty ghetto, nasty hotel, and I was staying on my own program. It was pretty bad out there, but I was doing my push-ups, I was lifting my weights, I was doing my legs, and I was getting a full body workout in every day, and basically trying to like eat. And I was eating very minimal. I've gone like 100, and I've gone over 100 days without eating food. Like I quit eating food, Dave. I was getting tortured so bad in
Well, how'd you
2020.
get by? Juice?
Juice, water, anything but food, right? So I I was running on spirit, I guess, but I was going number two in 2020, and they were doing occipital torture on me, and I was getting tortured on the toilet, and it got to the point, and I was having maybe, I don't know, it got to the point where I was like, you know what, I'm sick and tired of getting tortured on the toilet. I was like, I'm not sitting on the toilet no more. I was like, I'm just gonna quit eating food. And so I decided right there on the toilet to quit eating food, and I didn't even count the days. I think one of the RN or the V2K told me at 45 days. It said it's been 45 days. I was like, oh, okay, whatever. And I think I ended up doing like 160 days without eating any solid food whatsoever. And then I started teaching myself kung fu because I feel like I was called into action, like in the spirit. Like finally, like I always have been like a fighter and I always loved martial arts, but I never got to do it. And then in like 2020 or 21, like spiritually, I got called into action to teach myself Kung Fu. So I started trying to do that. And so I started exercising, lifting weights. I was like, well, I better start taking protein. So I started taking liquid protein, and I've done liquid diets and stuff like this. But yeah, I stopped eating food. But ultimately, that's not a very balanced approach. So my preferred programming is I like to like get up. I'm getting tortured. All right, get up, have some coffee, have some water. And I still have bad habits. I don't have a good morning routine. It's hard to establish one. The best routine I've got is just to, get up and like not drink, not drink if I can stay sober and fast, do some reasonable fasting. I prefer intermittent fasting, and then go, kind of go on a one meal a day type of situation of a healthy meal, do my exercises, read the Bible, do some, and stuff like that. And it's like, it really is frustrating that like, because I don't have a woman, I don't have friends, I don't have a family. I'm already thoroughly isolated, and then it still pisses them off that I'm able to like find a way to be like, okay, well, this is my life, so at least I'm I living out in Tulsa. I felt like, well, okay, I'm in jail or some shit, kind of. So, and I was in the Veterans Court program, so I couldn't do anything. So I was like, it was cool, I was sober, I had to get drug tested and all that stuff, but they like tried to shut me down on everything for that whole like 2.5 2 years of sobriety. But gosh, I'm getting off track. And they like they because it's like, like I said, they want to call me like a POS and a loser or whatever they want to do. Like they want to lie about me. They got to have their narrative. They want to define me. So when I start doing something that's like the opposite of the lie they told about me, I don't know. I guess they try to stop me from that. So for the TIs out there, it's like, whenever you're trying to do the best you can to do the best you can and to stay strong and to still continue to grow in this world and to follow, whatever your passions are or whatever your motivations are, like try not to let them get you off of the programming. But I know they want us to be like stuck going backwards, and so they try to
Right.
stop us from moving forwards, because they want to drag us down and drag us back and drag us down. And like so Dave, an interesting thing about your channel is like I've watched spiritual content. I've always been a very spiritual person, but I kind of appreciate the way on your channel we try to keep it like you try to keep it mostly talking about the targeting, but there's so many different aspects that go into this stuff, and it is such a spiritual war. But their weapons, how I've defined them, it's like their weapons make warfare against us. It's like spirit, mind, body, and soul. Spirit, mind, body, and soul. Like their weapons are making war against our spirits and our souls and our minds and our bodies. So that's like these are weapons of spiritual warfare. That's very much a big part of it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I got we gotta close out, but one thing I wanted you to explain before we go is that cloud buster you were talking about
Oh, okay, okay. So when I lived out in
and how
Catoosa,
to make it
Oklahoma,
if you
yeah.
could.
So there was a water feature out there in the backyard when I got there, and it was just a piece of crap plastic. But basically, there was a like an underground reservoir. It was just a simple like water fountain that'd be in a garden, right? And so what I did is I took that thing apart and I got some copper pipes. And I kind of sharpened the ends of the copper pipes and put some crystals in them. And I put rainwater in the underground reservoir. But what I did is I took a ground rod and I ran a ground rod next to that little water feature, and I took a like a ground wire that you ground a whole house with, and I grounded the water with that, and I used like two of them, and then I had another one that I ground myself on, but then I had basically a little cheap water pump in there. And what I do is I put a like a black water tube for the water pump, and I'd run it up, and I just have that water coming up and then cycling back down into the water. So that pump was just pumping water up and out and in, right? So basically, because flowing water creates negative ions, and negative ions are a healthy, healing, positive energy, right? So then the whole concept is the water's helping it stay clean and the negative ions are helping the whole situation stay kind of clean. The flowing water just helps keep things moving. And then the ground grounds all the water. And then the copper pipes are all conducted because waters are all connected because water's a conductor. And then the concept is to shoot the earth energy through the copper pipes up into the sky. And then what happens is you start busting holes in all their weather modification. And I built orgonite pyramids out there for that too. I built a lot of them. I went to war against their weather modification in 2016, 2017, and I mean I cleared up the skies for miles around with that cloudbuster. That thing was. But that's basically how I did it. Like copper pipe, you can sharpen the ends. And I was trying. There was still more science to get involved with it, but man, is it better if I maybe cap the bottom of the copper, or should I put crystal in the bottom? Coils. I recommend if you can put some coils, directional coils, copper coils in the pipes, and you're kind of getting into a metaphysical meets electrical theory kind of thing with this stuff a little bit. You
Right.
get a little bit. But yeah, it was awesome. It like really.
Right. Hey, have you ever? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry
No,
for
I was just
interrupting.
going to say it really did a great job. It really pissed them off. It really killed all their chemtrails. It made it where they couldn't even spray. I mean, they couldn't even do nothing. Like, oh man, it was good. So we do have the technology with stuff like Cloudbusters, and then some of the other technology out there that some of the other TIs I've heard talk about. But yeah, that's what I did, and it was devastating force against their weather
Did you
modifications. I
notice
mean,
relief?
yeah, because I would go out there and I would be kind of like laughing. I'd be like, yeah, it's beautiful out here now. I'd be out there getting some sunshine because, like I was like, oh, I wanted to get sunshine. I was like, oh, their government doesn't want me to get sunshine. I was like, yeah, well. And so I went after I just figured out how to defeat it as best I could. And man, I made great. I was frantic about it too. It was like war. I'm like, no. I'd go out there and see a chemtrail somewhere, and I'd take my copper pipes to my cloudbuster because I could just move them around and stuff, and I'd be aiming stuff right at those cats. I just try to knock everything out of the sky. So yeah,
Right.
I called it Sky Wars, but that's how I defeated NASA and the Air Force on that stuff. So that made me even more of a target. But oh well, oh well. But
Right.
yeah, yeah. And Dave, I know there's like a lot more to say. We might maybe one day we can do a follow up because I feel
Oh,
like.
for sure.
Okay, cool, cool.
Hey, this is off subject, but hey, have you ever took a hickory branch and had it pull you towards water?
Have I ever taken a hickory branch and had it
Yeah,
pull
you can
me?
take a hit. I thought you might know about this. I used to get my
Must
friends
be
from
an
the
old
city
Indian
like this.
trick.
I used to freak them out. Like you can take a branch of a hickory where it forks off and
Okay,
hold it like this,
okay.
and you want your end coming out. It's like a fork, and the branch. You want to break off a branch like that. Well, you hold the two ends, and if there's water around, the branch will pull you to water.
Oh, no kidding.
I used to freak my friends. They're like, "Oh, that ain't pulling you," and I was like, "And it will pull you." So
Wow,
somebody watching might know what I was talking about. I figured you
wow,
knew about it. But
wow.
yeah,
That's
hickory
an old.
branch will find water.
That sounds like an old Indian trick, man. That's pretty rad.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I appreciate it.
Well, man, hey, is
I'll
there any
remember that.
last things you want to tell the viewers? Is any kind of hope you want to give them? Anything you do that might be important for them to do that
Well, I
helps
think
you?
I think Dave's advice is really good. I started doing the garlic. I think it is a game changer. I think stay hydrated, get your exercise, try to stay on your own programming, like try to do what you do. Like, because I know a lot of us TIs, I think we're trying to be the best of ourselves. We're trying to live our best version and what have you. So keep trying to do that. And that's what they don't want. So keep trying to do that. And then I get down too, and they make me feel like, oh man, I don't want to exist anymore. So the struggle's real, and I know that. I have empathy for y'all out there, the TIs, but stay strong and pray to the Heavenly Father if that's what you do, and keep your faith, keep the faith, and try to do like these guys say. I mean, eat a clean diet, don't eat their genetically modified foods. When it comes to their weapons, once you put all the chemical induced like Dorito type of processed foods in your body, that stuff goes into your brain and crosses that barrier, and that makes their weapons far more severe. Like they can't give me a lot of headaches, for instance, because I don't eat a lot of their garbage food. But I feel like for people that are eating a kind of a less clean diet, like the corporate American diet tends to be, it makes their weapons more devastating, and they can hurt you real bad and cause. Yeah, so
Yeah,
try
Jack
to.
Cruz, that neurosurgeon I had that video of, that dude
Yeah,
Jack Cruz, he talked about that. How how
yeah,
how targeting started with processed foods and
yeah,
getting that stuff in you and
yeah,
using weapons to
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, fast if you can, and detox. Intermittent fasting is a great way to go because it allows your body to basically get everything processed out. If you can do intermittent fasting on a clean diet and stay hydrated and do like Dave's advice too, and do already what you know to do, um, those are some of the best advice I have. And then it's like for me, my advice for me is like kind of like, man, I gotta like find a way to keep myself doing what I consider to be productive and keeping myself strong and building resilience and enduring till the end, because I know it ain't easy.
And try to find activities away from electronics.
Yeah, and you really can't. It's like,
Oh, I'm
because
talking
the
about like
whole,
instead of watching TV all day, work out hard,
oh
read
yeah,
a real book,
yeah, yeah, for sure. That's good advice. What they do to me to stop me from reading is they torture me anytime I try to read, which I hate because I like to read. I heard another one of your guests talk about that, how they stopped her from reading. That's kind of,
try.
I read like 9 books in 2024, like this whole series of books, Joe Abercrombie's First Law trilogy, anyways. But um, man,
Try
they
putting some
tortured.
handpan music on while you read.
I
It
will.
may
I've heard.
help.
I've heard you give that advice, and I'm gonna do that. I looked it up already, and I said, oh, that's a hand pan. So yeah, I'll do that for sure.
Yeah. I'm gonna stop recording and we can say
Okay,
our goodbyes.
sounds good. Sounds
Thank you,
good.
man.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, man.
Oh
I'll have to
yeah.
come
Are you
back and do
gonna
it
are you
again
gonna
because
start
it's.
making videos?
Yeah, I am gonna start making videos, and
And
I'm gonna
what's your
try to
channel name?
Live Free or Die 7982 show,
Okay.
and it's like YouTube at like Live Free or Die show, I think so.
All right. If you'll email me that link, I'll put it in the comments and pin it.
Okay, I will do that. I will do that. Dave, I really appreciate you having me on, and all you guys, all you TIs out there, I appreciate you all too. And I'm going through it too, and I'm on your fighting side, So that's all I'll say about that.
Right. Well, reach out if you need to.
Yeah, for sure, I will do.